acting did not come naturally. Some paths, like acting, can be expensive. Am I wasting my time? Is this realistic? Not everyone starts from the same place. Probably one of the most awkward things to do when you're trying something new. You start shrinking your goals to fit people's comfort. So you think you have no talent. That's actually good, because that means that you're probably at least honest. You're not one of those people who grew up being the best at something, and no one really clapped for you early. No one told you this is your thing. So now you're there thinking, what am I even supposed to do with my life? And everywhere you look, it just feels like everyone has it. They can sing, they can act, they can do whatever that is for you that you can't do, and they seem to do it just so easily. And you're just average. Or at least that's what it feels like. But here's the part that no one really says out loud. Most talented people did not really start that way. They did not start with talent as per se, but they started with interest. And then, most importantly, they did something that most people just don't. They stayed. They stayed when they were bad. And they stayed when they were embarrassing. And most importantly, they stayed when they were embarrassing and someone was watching. So talent is just what consistency looks like after a few years. That's it. But consistency doesn't really come from motivation. It comes from discipline. And discipline is usually not so strong and not as aesthetic and inspiring to look at. It's repeating something when you're tired, when you're doubting yourself, and honestly, over time, it gets even pretty boring. It's showing up on the days where nothing really clicks, when you feel like you're doing everything wrong, when you feel like you're not improving at all, and where you question whether it's even worth it, and then doing it anyway. Because the truth is, you don't become good at something just because it feels right. You become good at something because you keep choosing it. And here's where it gets even more confusing. Sometimes you're really good at something else. Sometimes you might be talented, but in something else, something easier, something that just makes sense. And for me, that was visual art and languages. These things just came naturally. Things that I was just already good at. And for a long time, I thought that's what I'm supposed to do. Because it's very easy to believe that talent decides your path. But then there was acting. And acting did not come naturally. Actually, it's probably one of the most awkward things to do when you're trying something new. It was uncomfortable, it was new, and I definitely wasn't the best. And that's a very different feeling. Choosing something where you're not feeling special, where no one was really impressed yet, and where you don't feel like you're really meant for it. So the question becomes, do you stay with something that you're good at? Or do you choose something that pulls you, even when you're bad at it? Because those are not always the same thing. And that's where discipline matters the most. Because when you don't have natural talent, unfortunately, to rely on, discipline is what becomes your biggest advantage. It's the thing that closes the gap. Slowly, quietly, and repetitively. Until one day, you're not a beginner anymore. But the more discipline you'll have, the more work you'll put in, the sooner the day comes. And not because you were the most talented one, but simply because you did not leave. So, if you feel like you have no talent, it's actually not a problem. You just need to understand what you're signing up for, because we are not going to be sugarcoating things here, or at least I personally do not like that. You are choosing the long way and the uncomfortable way. And the worst thing is the way where nothing guarantees your success, but also the way where you actually get to decide who you become. Not based on what you were given, but based on what you refuse to give up on. And then there's another part of this that people just don't talk about. Because all of this discipline, consistency, just keep going is really great until the reality hits hard. Because not everyone starts from the same place. Some paths, like acting, can be expensive, and some require the time you don't have. Some demand years of working and effort, like acting, or usually, before there's any actual proof that it's working. And that's a very different kind of pressure. Because it's one thing to follow your passion when you're getting validation, opportunities, results. And it's another thing entirely when you're investing your time, your energy, and oftentimes even a lot of your money. And there's no tangible outcome yet. Nothing you can point to and say, this is working. And that does mess with your head. Because then you start asking, am I actually bad at this? Am I wasting my time? Is this realistic? And to answer these questions, you need self-awareness, a great deal of it. But here's the problem, another one. Self-awareness is really hard when you're in a completely new field. It's really hard to assess things because you don't even know what good actually looks like yet. You don't know how long it's supposed to take, and you don't know if you're improving or just stuck. So what do? You ask people. Well, friends, family, anyone who's gonna give you some kind of an answer. And that's where it gets tricky. Because not everyone is capable of seeing your potential, especially in something they don't entirely understand. Sometimes they're trying to protect you. Other times they're trying to project their own fears. And sometimes they just don't believe in things they have not done themselves or they don't see as respectable in their own eyes. And sometimes their intentions might not be the best, even when they're your own family. So instead of guidance, you get doubt. Comments that sound like concern but slowly make you question everything. And if you're not careful, you start shrinking your goals to fit people's comfort. That's why this path, choosing something you're not actually good at, investing in it without guarantees, requires something deeper than motivation. It requires trust. Not blind confidence, not pretending that you're just so amazing, but the ability to say, I might not be good at this yet, I might not have proof yet, but I'm willing to keep going long enough to find out. Because if you rely on external validation, you're gonna quit before anything even has a chance to grow. If you only listen to people who've never taken that kind of risk, you'll end up leading a life that's gonna feel safe, but certainly not yours. So now let's get into the part where I'm gonna talk about my actor's insecurities. Acting is something that is sort of a weak spot for me because I've been told by close people to me that I can never do that and that I'm not talented and so on. I swear every video where was I? So basically I've been told by my family that I am not someone who can act or dance or do anything like that because I just don't have talent in those things. They have never seen me act and I intend on keeping it that way. Hopefully, I really hope they're not gonna see this channel except for my brother who, if he happens to be there by any chance, that's the person who I really don't mind seeing this because he's the best person in the world. But aside from my brother, I really hope no one in my at least immediate family finds out about this. So it's difficult to keep some things from your family when you know that there are things that you would love to share, but you know that sharing them would hurt you eventually because following on the trust and discipline, just to prove that I'm actually doing that, we're gonna do some self-taping because I'm gonna be sending that to my coach. I'm quite tired, but I have to practice because even if you have some talent, you cannot really slack behind. So I'm gonna be setting up the self-tapes and we're gonna be shooting some scene. So this is my very much improvised bathroom setup of self-taping. I'm just sending it to my coach, so I'm not sending this to like castings and so on. I'm just using my shower curtain as my backdrop. And yeah, I really was not gonna like show you full setup and shooting of a full scene because that would be another video. So if you'd like to see that, then I really hope you'll stick around for more. And if you like this one, consider giving thumbs up, and I really hope I will see you next time. I hope you have a wonderful evening and see you next time.